Are your Pittsburgh Steelers going to remain victorious and stay in that win column this weekend when they go out west and face the Seattle Seahawks? Or will they stumble and totally destroy any chance they have remaining at making the 2023 AFC playoffs? Welcome back to Mic Drop Sports, everybody. I'm Jason. Let's dive into this football game. Let's break down some of the X's and O's and where the Steelers need to be tough and where they need to succeed in order to beat this Seahawks football team. Let's start out first with that Seattle defense. They have some questionable players. They're going to be starting former Steelers like Devin Bush, Artie Burns. At least that's the way it looks right now. You have Bobby Wagner out there. That's a solid inside linebacker for the Seattle Seahawks. But this defense can be hurt. It can be hurt by the run game. We saw Seattle get gouged last weekend. We saw them in the first half, rather. We saw that run game totally tear them down. And then you've seen, though, that they were able to make adjustments in the second half, only allowing 40 rushing yards in the second half. Those type of adjustments show me that this football team doesn't quit and they want to fight, and especially on that defensive side of the football where it really matters. They can cause some late game turnovers, cause some late game theatrics that could really hurt the Steelers on offense. This defense of the Seattle Seahawks knows how to get after the quarterback. They're ranking up there in the NFC, high up there, first, second in sacks, and they know how to get after the quarterback. They have some questionable players at the defensive end spot, inside linebacker like we talked about. But this Seahawks defense has been finding ways to be able to fight. They're going to start guys like Artie Burns in a nickel. That's a big blow for them. But Devin Witherspoon has been playing. He's questionable, but that's a big-time cornerback for the Pittsburgh Steelers, a guy that would probably follow the likes of George Pickens. And are the Steelers going to be able to overcome that? I think if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, you have to attack the Seattle defense and have the mind frame of run first, set up the play action pass, and attack the middle of the field where you're going to have guys like Devin Bush out there. Devin Bush could be having a revenge game, could be so fired up and geeked up that he comes out and has a monster game, or the emotions could overtake him and the Pittsburgh Steelers could pick on him. And the Pittsburgh Steelers, whenever they get the Seattle Seahawks in that nickel package out there on defense, they can pick on Artie Burns if they put the right people in the slot to where Artie Burns is going to have to control somebody of significance, like a Deontay Johnson, a George Pickens, a Calvin Austin, even guys like Allen Robinson, who's bigger, stronger. Maybe Allen can dominate a guy like Artie Burns. We've seen Allen come on here in the last couple weeks. He's had a horrible season with no production, but the last couple weeks he's started to catch some footballs, and I think that that's going to be big for the Pittsburgh Steelers, especially at the inside of the field where you want to attack that middle of the Seattle Seahawks defense. Yes, there's Bobby Wagner there, but he's not going to be able to do it all by himself. He's going to have to rely on guys like Devin Bush to help him out. And if you're the Steelers, you're going to have to scheme things up to move those inside linebackers around to where they're not able to play their position. You're going to have to get them out of sorts a little bit. You're going to have to move them around with a lot of motions and a lot of different things like that. Confuse that inside linebacker room for the Seattle Seahawks. Don't allow them to settle into this football game to where the Seahawks are going to be able to pin their ears back and apply a lot of pressure. You can't allow that to happen. And if you're Mason Rudolph, getting the ball out quickly on a defense like the Seattle Seahawks that can get after the quarterback is going to be imperative. And that's where this tight end room is going to come into play for the Steelers. You're going to have Pat Freiermuth and Darnell Washington, whom I expect to have big games, and sprinkle a little Connor Hayward in there, and I think you could have a recipe for success. I think the Steelers have to focus on utilizing those guys a little bit. Najee Harris and Jalen Warren are going to be of utmost importance. That offensive line has to find another gear. They have to hit another level this weekend as football ramps up and games become harder. And opponents don't matter. They're just nameless gray faces, but they are going to be tough. Every game from here on out is going to be significant, and it's going to be hard to win. They're not going to be cakewalks. Yes, they blew out the Bengals last week, but the Steelers showed that they were able to keep their foot on the gas, and that's what they have to do again this week. Where the Steelers stumbled against the Indianapolis Colts, going up 13-0, and then taking their foot off the gas and allowing the Colts to just totally dominate the rest of that football game. The Steelers didn't play that game against the Bengals. They got up early, put 21 points up on the board, and never let up. And that's what the Steelers have to continue to do this week, guys. They have to play that type of football. And like I said, using the middle of the field, utilizing the run game is going to open up things in that pass game. That's when you can attack those edges with George Pickens and Deontay Johnson. And hopefully they're able to keep their heads in this game long enough to allow Mason Rudolph to get time and get things built up and get things set up to where they can go deep, to where they can utilize those guys on the edges, utilize those guys coming across the middle of the field. And I think that that's going to be a big key. Can George Pickens, can Deontay Johnson keep their heads in the game long enough for the Steelers to set up those big things, to set up those big splash plays? And I hope it happens early and often, but you know what the Steelers have to do in this football game with a team that's able to get after the quarterback, a team that's able to adjust well in the second half, that fights the whole game. You got to wear them down. You have to be able to run the football. You have to be able to utilize the tight ends, middle of the field. How about some of them drag routes? I think those are going to be very important and could have big yards after the catch this week. Use guys like Deontay and Calvin Austin that have a lot of speed. Use George Pickens even in that area. Get guys the football in space and allow them to work. And I think if you're Mason Rudolph, getting the football spread around early and often is going to be your best friend. Going to be huge for you. It's going to keep all your guys, all your playmakers engaged, and it's going to really help you shine, and it's going to help you really be able to make plays late in the football game when you have everybody working and firing on all cylinders and everybody's on the same page. But this game offensively for the Steelers against the Seattle Seahawks defensive front is going to come down to the trenches. And the Steelers' offensive line has to rise to the occasion, guys. They cannot stumble. This week is a game that they can't afford to have Mason Cole rolling snaps back to Mason Rudolph. Can't afford miscues with illegal formations, false starts, holding penalties. They have to be fundamentally sound this week if the Steelers want to have any type of chance to win this football game. I had a commenter say that this isn't the Legion of Boom. Face it, they're not that good. That is false, guys. Don't get that false sense of security. This Seattle Seahawks defense knows how to turn the ball over, and they know how to get after the quarterback, and that is no bullshit, and they will hit you, and they can win ball games. They can change ball games. Don't let their record fool you. This defense knows how to play football, and yes, they'll give up some rush yards, but the Pittsburgh Steelers do at times also. So you can't just go off of those numbers and those statistics. You have to watch these games, watch how they play. And this team, this defense has a lot of fight in it, and you can't take it for granted. And if you're Mason Rudolph, you have to fight for 60 minutes. You can't let up. You're playing for your football life, Mason. This is for your career. You have to come out and prove to everybody that you are a reliable, steady quarterback that doesn't turn the ball over and that can be the guy to lead a team to victory. You have to prove week after week here at the end of the 2023 season that you're a guy that can get the job done. This is your moment, Mason Rudolph. This is your time. This is your moment to shine. This is the time that you have to grab that opportunity and not let it go. And if you want to make football your career, this is the time you do it. This is the place you do it. This week in Seattle, you go out there and solidify what the Pittsburgh Steelers want to see. You go out there and show them that that is your spot and solidify it for you and take control and become the QB1. That's the goal this week if you're Mason Rudolph, guys. Sorry, I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent a little bit about this offense and going up against that Seattle defense. They have a lot of injuries, guys. They have a lot of guys that are questionable. You have Devin Witherspoon, like I said, that's questionable. Jordan Brooks, questionable left inside linebacker. Jamal Adams, questionable, strong safety. Pete Carroll did say that he was out there hopping around along with Brooks, the left inside linebacker, Jordan Brooks, who's questionable. You have Nick Bellore, questionable, right inside linebacker. You have Mario Edwards, questionable, a right defensive end. So you have both the starter at left defensive end, right defensive end, guys that play a lot of key snaps. They are questionable. They may be hindered a little bit here in the early parts of this week. Well, now that we're getting late into the week, we'll see how it goes. We'll see, look at their injury report and see how things is coming along for them on defense. But you have guys that are at pivotal positions that are injured. And if you're the Steelers, like I said, you have to scheme things, use motion, scheme ways to put your one-on-one matchups against these backups, against these guys that are questionable and do end up playing, knowing that they're a little hampered by injury, and attack that in a big way and never let up. And hopefully the Pittsburgh Steelers offense is able to run the football consistently and dominate the time of possession, because you don't want to keep that Seattle Seahawks offense on the field and give them opportunities. You can't do it. And that's going to bring me into a couple other things here. The Seattle Seahawks offensively and what the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to do defensively or have to do defensively in order to be successful. Let's go through some of the questionable players for the Seattle Seahawks on offense. You have Kenneth Walker, their running back, who can score from anywhere on the field. He's kind of a home run guy. He reminds me of Jaylen Warren a little bit. Kenneth Walker, the third, the running back, is questionable. You have Jackson Smith, Ninjigba, he is questionable, a quality wide receiver who can change the game and make plays for Geno Smith. Noah Fant, one of their better tight ends on this team, questionable. We've seen Noah Fant when he played with the Broncos, etc., etc. So we know what Noah Fant can do, and he could be dangerous if left unchecked. Nick Bellore, questionable, the fullback. Will that affect that Seattle Seahawks run game on offense? Will that make them will that make them ineffective in the run game, not having the fullback, having to go to a single setback with more wide receivers? Or do they move a tight end back? They have three that they dress and three that can play. Do they move a tight end back to play more of a fullback role so they can use that I formation to be able to power run against that Steelers defensive front? And can the Steelers defensive front hold up with Cam Hayward, Larry Ogunjobi, those types of players? Cam Hayward needs to come out and have a monster game, because why? He's playing at the end of his career here and wants a chance in the playoffs to go chasing Lombardi. And if you're Cam Hayward, you got to come out juiced up, man. Juiced up. This has to be a game Cam Hayward controls. Forces things to the edge to a TJ Watt and an Alex Highsmith and allow them to make those tackles. Don't let nothing come up that middle. Don't allow them to establish any sort of run game between the tackles like they did in Indianapolis, where they were able to run it 15 straight times or 13 straight times, some crazy number, and take an 8-minute drive off the clock and kill your chances of any type of comeback if you're playing from behind. Also, you have Damian Lewis, questionable, left guard. You also have Anthony Bradford, questionable, the right guard. So, again, does that hinder this Seattle Seahawks ability on offense to be able to run between the tackles because of the guard injuries? They're both questionable. I'm not sure if they're going to play or not. You have a fullback that's out. Is that going to allow guys like Cam and Larry O and who else plays there? Loudermilk, guys like that. Keanu Benton, I think he might be injured. I can't remember, but you guys tell me. I'm like going off on a tirade here. But anyway, guys in that defensive front for the Pittsburgh Steelers and that middle of the defensive front has to really be able to put some pressure on. And with those injuries, are they going to be able to really collapse that pocket in on Geno Smith? And that's where I'm questioning this. Are they going to be able to collapse it and push it up to where Geno Smith is going to have to run into one of the great edge rushers for the Pittsburgh Steelers? And if you're the Steelers, you've got to keep those edge rushers fresh, because I think that's your golden opportunity to really dominate this football game. Allow Herbig and Golden to get in there and spell Highsmith, Watt, at times, to apply a constant pressure, a constant force on that edge, to where it gives Geno Smith no place to go, especially with the injuries on their offensive line. This is where you have to take advantage of it, and you can't allow the Seahawks to get churning there. And that will affect that pass game for Geno Smith, because when he's not comfortable in the pocket and has nowhere to go, that's going to cause turnovers, guys. And you saw it last week against Jake Browning, and that's what the Steelers need to do yet again. It's a winning formula. Geno, though, guys, he's a solid guy. He can win ball games. He knows how to come back. He knows how to fight. He doesn't quit, and he just keeps on coming at you. And you're going to have to shut him down for a full 60 minutes. These guys are playing for their season also. This is a championship football game, guys. I listened to the Pete Carroll press conference, his weekly, like Mike Tomlin does, and Pete Carroll even said it. This is a championship football game for both teams. These teams are both fighting for their life. This is the end of the season, and every game is so important. And now you're the Steelers going on the road the whole way across the country into a hostile environment against a team that knows how to play football and knows how to fight, and you really got to come out with your A game. And it's so imperative for the Pittsburgh Steelers to dominate on defense with a banged-up defense. You're going to have Miles Jack, Walker back there in the inside linebacker spot. You're going to have Blake Martinez back there taking some snaps. You're going to have guys back there that tend to give some things up at times. We saw the emergence of Miles Jack last week. Now that he's healthy, is he going to be able to provide that veteran presence and be a baller here at the end of the year? A guy that's coming in healthy and is ready to go, a real NFL veteran. He could really surprise some people, I think, this week and have a real big football game. And I'm going to make a prediction here. I look for Miles Jack to get an interception this week. I know that's a far-fetched thing, but I like the chances of Cameron Hayward in that defensive front collapsing the pocket in on Geno Smith enough that's going to force some errant throws and make him try to force the ball into the middle of the field for a quick crossing route or something of that nature. And I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to have guys in place. And I think Miles Jack is going to come away with a big interception this week. One of the types that you see like a game-sealing type interception in a big moment. And I think Miles Jack is just a guy for that. A fresh guy, a fresh set of eyes, a fresh set of legs. And I wouldn't put it past the Steelers to also continue dropping those outside linebackers at times to force Geno Smith into making some errant throws, playing more zone coverage and making Geno really dissect that Steelers defense in order to be successful. The wide receiver group for the Seattle Seahawks team is second to none. DK Metcalf, guys like Lockett, Njigbu, those guys are so good, guys. They are so good, and they can dominate a football game. And if Geno Smith has time to facilitate the football to that wide receiver group, the Steelers could be in real trouble. Joey Porter Jr. has to be locked down on DK Metcalf, and I can't wait to see that matchup. Two physical guys, and I think it could be one of those all-time, big-time, crazy matchups between two of the league's best right now. I think Joey Porter, yes, is one of the league's best corners right now. I think he's super physical, and he doesn't get enough credit for what he's done as a rookie for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He holds that defensive secondary together at times. He's the only one out there making plays at times. Also, you have a veteran in Patrick Peterson back at that safety position, I think, for another week. I think Trenton Thompson might be available also, but Patrick Peterson, a ball hawk himself, I think can really play a big role in this game also, especially in zone coverage, and I think he could get an interception yet again, playing back there in that ball hawk type position. But this run game for the Seattle Seahawks is what they're going to try to lean on. And like I mentioned before, those injuries, and Seattle likes to slow the game down a lot. Pete Carroll has said himself they have limited the pass plays, but don't take that for granted. They could come out slinging it early. That could just be a little bit of a decoy, a little bit of cat and mouse, a little bit of chess game. But they lean on this run game a lot. And if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, shutting down that Seattle Seahawks run game is going to be of utmost importance. Is going to really be one of the telltale signs of how this football game will end up being and how it will unfold throughout the 4 quarters of football. All right, guys, that's just our brief breakdown of what we want to see offensively and defensively. We'll maybe get into a little bit of the special teams later here in the week as we approach this football game. Don't forget our live show that will be happening post-game Pittsburgh-Seattle, and hopefully we'll be celebrating a big win. Maybe I'll be joined by Sean. We'll see how that all goes. Again, I appreciate you guys so much. We've now reached all of our YouTube goals. I'm just waiting for them to update the hours and all that, and without you guys, that wouldn't be possible. And I am so appreciative of all of you and everything you've done for me and helping me build this channel. Also, I'm very appreciative of Sean, who's recently come on here in the last month or so and really helped me out delivering quality content to you guys, the viewers. And without him, things would be tough. So I appreciate him helping out also. All right, guys, until next time, I'm Jason. This is Mike Drop Sports. Peace.